going back with it. Gives it to Cecil Wonga. Red jumpers everywhere. He fires it to the middle. Tohu Harris. He looks to his left. Gronk. He goes to Hoffman. Hoffman. Tonamapia.
Pressure on Jared Hayne. He takes it comfortably. Steps one. Steps two. Steps three. He's away. Jared Hayne with a catch and a run. They're not going to catch him. All aboard. Tickets please for the Hayne train.
He's Houdini. He's Houdini. And he's put Gardner over. Daniel Gardner has scored. What about Andrew King? Put him in the circus. Put him somewhere. He's too good for this game.
You are now listening to the Molten Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Goodness me, what a teamless Tuesday we've been thrown. A few curveballs to talk about, and we're live to go through all of them. Welcome back to the Molten Fantasy Sports Podcast, proudly sponsored by the Standard Squeeze. I'm your host, Nathan Brain, the Supercoach Brain, and I'm joined by my co-host, as always, Matty O'Brien, Supercoach Matrix. Mate, I thought I was pretty set on what I was doing up until about an hour ago when teams dropped, and now it's just absolute carnage.
Mate, just welcome to the West Tigers podcast, because again, there is going to be a lot of chat about Sheensy's, not Sheensy's revival. This might be Sheensy's revival of the West Tigers.
I don't know about that. We'll see. I'm optimistic. Good. Thanks for jumping on, Herbie, as well. How good are the mighty West Tigers? I don't know about that, but I love the optimism. Mate, we've been also tinkering a little bit with rebranding this podcast, mate, because we love a tin. We love a beer on the pod. We thought we call it Tinless Tuesday, and I think it's very appropriate with the way that we run this pod, mate. So I reckon we go with that moving forward.
Welcome to Tinless Tuesday.
Guys, drop a comment. Let us know how you went, how you ranked, all the good stuff and the bad and the ugly from the week just gone. It was pretty ugly for me. But we'll talk about our scores pretty soon. Before we do, hit subscribe, hit like, hit follow, give us a review, tell a mate about the pod, all that stuff. If you rate the content and you like what we're dishing out, do us a favor so that we can get out there and reach more people. Guys, on today's show, we'll cover our round 3 scores and rank, even though they're not great. We'll talk through the top 6 bought and sold players. We did 6 this week because the number 6 is actually a really interesting one. We'll cover all 8 games, team lists as well, all 16 teams, and Q&A at the end, and our trades and captaincy thoughts. So there's a lot to go through. We'll cover it all and more over the next hour or so. Mate, obviously, if you haven't joined our unlimited group, guys, make sure to hop in because that's closing very soon. The code is on the screen. If you're listening to us, hop onto the YouTube and have a look. The code's on the screen the whole episode. So make sure to join that one. It's free entry and you can win the championship ring at the end of the season and an episode on the podcast with us. And the top score from our unlimited group last week, Shane, team name Socknorb, which is Broncos backwards. I've worked it out. So I'm sure he's a big fan of Supercoach Matrix over here. Scored 1,263 last week. So
I think I'm a fan of him after his score last week, more so than him being a fan of me.
Absolutely.
I've heard him 22nd overall as well.
How good's that? That's a serious effort. So hopefully he can take it out and be part of the Molten Fantasy Sports Unlimited group and take that one out as well. Matty, I got 951, 50-point upgrade, mind you. God, I needed it. Ranked at 34,267 now. How about yourself?
Yeah, I got 1,000, bang on. Ranked 39,000th, and did get some updates, but did get some, that little hit from Reed Marnie as well, which hurts. So.
Yeah, killer, wasn't it? I thought I was looking pretty with Reed Marnie's 50-odd for late 50s or 58 or whatever it was, and then I looked and he got 44. I was like, come on, man. Rough. I needed every single point this week. So Tommy Sangster doing me dirty.
Yeah.
Let's talk top 6 bought, mate. Let's dive in. Now, the first guy, one of your boys, Reece Walsh from the Broncos, is 10% of people have brought him in this week. He's now 22% owned. He's gone from 3% owned to 22% in about 2 days. We talked on Sunday night about the risk of the fact that there's a bit of drink water about him. There's a bit of a sub 10 or 100 plus about him. Do you still feel the same?
Yeah, I still do. A lot of people made a bit of fun of me for saying I, slid him into my team during our Broncos, preseason shows. He looks exactly what I expected, but I think, when you go 70 minutes and you have a look, a lot of people were sweating, especially those people that added him, those 10% or 9% that added him last week. You would have been absolutely sweating bullets. And we were playing the Dragons. Just don't be. Just be aware of what you're getting yourself into by adding Reece Walsh now. He's going to have a score of probably 140, 150 during the season, but he's probably going to have a score of 20.
You know what? Because I'm thinking about bringing him in. I reckon he goes sub 20 this week. So just stay away, guys. It's going to happen now that I've jumped on him. But look, honestly, minus 32 break even with the Broncos draw and all the games at Suncorp and how good he's looked. There is risk there, of course, but there's risk with any player going sub 20. There's a risk that a player can go off injured after 20 minutes. So
I'd argue there's not that much risk with your number 3 pick, but that's going to come after we talk about the second one. So,
hey, were you watching last year? There may be. Reece Walsh is a good option, and obviously that's why he's for most bought this week. And number 2, Josh Schuster. Everyone's going a week early, but 6.8% of super coaches have brought him in. I understand why. What are your thoughts?
I actually expected this to be more. He looked really good, and I probably expected it to be more by people that didn't look too deep into the stats. 3 try assists, and it was only that sort of 59. I think he's only going to get better. His match fitness is only going to get better. He's just so good at, squaring up the defense and, that no-look pass. I want to have him in my team. But, there was a bit of cramping last week in his calf. I'm just going to be waiting, I assume, unless I really need the cash with a downgrade option to get us into some of these other blokes. Yeah, I'm going to be waiting a week, I feel, just in case there's an injury, just in case I don't have the cash to get out of him a bit later on. There's no harm in waiting on Joshy Schuster. Yeah,
I'm going to wait that extra week as well because he's the perfect downgrade second row forward /5'8" option. I mean, there's a couple of players we'll talk about soon. One of them is on the most sold list that you could easily find some nice cash by downgrading to Schuster, but you can wait a week on that because honestly, like you mentioned, with all the attack, he could have gone sub 10 last week without those attacking stats. There was no base in Schuster whatsoever. So absolutely a wait and see, because if he comes out and gets 10 this week, everybody's going to start second guessing him and start talking about the fact that maybe he's a guy you can leave out. So bit of risk there, worth a watch. Number 3, Payne Haas, 4.9%. He is the best front row forward option with Tohu Harris this week. I think we'll talk about Cotter soon, but if you're looking at upgrading Cotter, I think those two are the best 2 options at the moment. What do you reckon?
I think Haas is a better option than Tohu because there's a little bit more upside. Tohu is, and I'm eating my words from the preseason. I'll give myself a rap when I'm right, but a rap over the knuckles when I'm wrong. Tohu is the most consistent. Haas is the best option, but you're paying a premium. You're paying more than your Joseph Tarpanys and everyone like that. And he's on the back of how good the Broncos have been. Payne Haas has been the best front row forward. You're right. Big time.
But I mean, when you've got a guy that you can pick at front row, dual front row, second row, that's playing 80 minutes at lock with Tohu's work rate, you've got to look at him. And personally, also, we need to remember Haas is going to be playing Origin through the middle of the year. Tohu won't be. I think the Warriors also play 2 of the 3 major buy rounds. So there's a lot of things to consider there.
I also think that there's something to consider that you've got probably a Jackson Ford coming in. You've had your Just Tavago come into the side, which had we might not even get the best look at it with Wade Egan out this week, but there's still could be some question marks about Tohu yet. He's still going to be tremendous. He's still going to bang you out, 55 to 70 every week, regardless. But I just don't think that 80-minute role is a set in stone because we haven't really got our answers to our Niokore questions or our Jackson Ford questions due to some injuries and some HIAs. So.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Warriors very soon because there's a lot of moving parts there. Mate, Turbo's number 4.2%. I'm actually really surprised that the majority of the people making moves at the moment didn't start with Turbo. But I mean, I guess people started with Latrell and Teddy as well. So maybe they're downgrading Teddy, which it looks like
We'll
they're doing.
we could have been having the same discussion. Let's wait on Schuster a week to see if he gets hurt. I'm presuming that these people were just waiting on Turbo to see if he gets hurt, and they're rectifying their mistake of not going. The risk of 590 Ks and a couple hundreds was worth it for me. But yeah, these guys are just fixing that mistake. So.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think it's a perfect time now in the first 5 rounds to fix all your mistakes. Get on top of it. Use your trades if you have to get on top of the mistakes you made in the preseason. And then you can coast once you get it right. So that's my strategy anyway. Number 5, most bought is Jacob Preston, 3.8%. Completely get this one, minus 62 break even. So he could get sin bin 5 times, Matty, and still make cash for you. How about that?
Yeah, how good. If you don't have him, he needs to be a priority for that cash generation and just being a guy that you can plug and play every week.
Definitely. He's sitting with the reserve armband for me for the distant future, basically. He's pretty easy to rely on. And number 6, and the reason why I made sure there were 6 in this list, our boy Nico Hines, 3.5%, are banking the 900K, and they're going, you know what? I'm just going to pay up straight away against the Dragons. Well, I'm sure there's some good reasons as to why you would. What are you doing?
I'm not sure. I started the day, I'm getting Nicholas Hines in my team, and finished the day, I'm not so sure anymore. So yeah, you'll have to stay posted on my Twitter, I'd say, up until Thursday morning.
Yeah, I've been tossing and turning. I think the reverse trades button on my Supercoach is broken because I reckon I've leased 50 reverse trades this week trying to work out what I'm going to do. And most of them have involved Harry Grant and Nico Hines and how I play that out. So stay tuned. We'll talk about trades at the end. We've got a few ideas. Mate, most sold player, Teddy, and he's in the top 5 most sold 2 weeks in a row. Minus 7.9% so 7.9% of owners are dropping him this week, but he's not playing this week as well. So if you've got some other problems, and there are some players here that a lot of people have that either didn't get named or aren't playing the role they are, you could probably just hold him if you're not going to Walsh, or if you don't like Walsh. There's merit to just holding Teddy, knowing he's not going to drop your cash.
Yeah, so I captained Teddy last week. Joined my support group, and I understand getting rid of him, but taking a step back, saying that you're never trading a keeper, saying that you've planned, what's really changed? His role hasn't really changed. Maybe he hasn't looked as involved. It's probably more that the Roosters haven't looked as good as we anticipated. And maybe some of the teams that they played, expecting an easy run, were a bit better. Look, I'm going to try and find a way to get Teddy. The only reason I would get rid of Teddy 2 reasons I get Teddy: to save the cash for Reece Walsh, maybe a 150K swing if Reece Walsh can keep rolling, or that could, free up some cash for Nico. You've probably got to make a choice between Teddy and Nico.
Yep, for sure. Second most sold, Adam Dewey. I think. So let's talk about pronunciation on this one, because his old man wants the name to be pronounced Dewey, but the Lebanese community preferred Dwayhe. Is that correct? So I'm just a little bit kind of stuck on how I pronounce it. Maybe respect to the family and how he wants it to be said.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. They called him Dwayhe during the World Cup when I was watching it. That's sort of, the commentators were doing it. I presume that they'd done their research. But yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure if I want him in my team either.
No, Adam D, we'll call him. He
the big D.
5.4%. No, not so big after last week. I've got in my notes here that turf toe is a real reality, or a real chance of coming true for Adam Dwayhe, which is a big concern considering the NRL physio has gone into a lot of depth on the risks of him having a decreased performance through that injury. And they're moving into fullback this week off the back of an injury with bigger workload and more running involved.
I'm not sure I really understand understand that. I understand getting Brendan Wakeham in your team because I think he was sensational for the minutes that he played last week. But I'm not sure that limits his running. I think that either way, you're going to get Adam D not training this week, and you're probably not going to get the best version of Adam D. So yeah, I'm not really sure what to think of it myself. Probably the bigger issue is who you would go to, more than why you would get rid of him. I understand getting rid of him, but he's probably going to be better than whoever you're adding. Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, neither. He's probably a watch this week. I just want to see how they go with this new lineup. Him at fullback. There's, look, his break even's 90, and let's face it, even if he gets a 50 or a 40 or something, he's not going to lose you bulk cash. So, not overly concerned. I'll hold. I've got bigger problems. Sammy Walker, 2.7% are bailing on him, and obviously that's likely to Nico Hines. It kind of matches up perfectly with the Hines trade-in. And essentially, if you started with Sam Walker, you probably always had a mind to get Nico Hines as soon as he was named, based on Walker's price point. So it makes sense.
And him getting 20 odd this week probably solidified your decision too. If you're a Sam Walker owner, if he banged out a 90, you might have thought about waiting till after Nico's bye. But I think banging out a 20, you're just gonna cut your losses now and move on. So.
And look, we won't ruin all of the kind of talk about Nico Hines. We've got a lot of that coming later on.
Yeah.
Because it's a very contested topic this week, so we'll cover that a little bit later. But number 4 most sold is William Warbrick. Why? Who are they going to? Aside, are they going to Sloane?
Yeah, it must be a rage trade. What my concern is, you're spending $100K for getting a guy that could just score the same. You've got Cameron Munster coming back into the side. Hopefully, a few more attacking stats from the Storm to come out, and I think Will Warbrick will get a run. I'm not going to play him in my 17, but definitely at that price, I'm not going to waste a trade.
And look how bad he's got like a couple of 30s and a 16 or whatever it was, and he still gained 16K. Like, it only takes one big score of 60, 70 plus, and we saw this with Khan Pereira last week, and he'll have a negative break even for 2 weeks, and he'll probably just make you 100K over a fortnight. It's one good game, and you're sorted. You've got 100K out of him, and you don't have to play him. So if you're relying
it's a rage
on
trade. People played him last week because they had Taruva and To'o, and probably made the wrong choice between AKP and him, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, that's pretty sound. Top 5. So number 5 is our boy Ruben Cotter. 2.1% are bailing on him. He hasn't been named. This week, so that'll go through the roof. I reckon he's going to be most sold this week. I understand, even if he was named, why people are moving on him, considering his minutes have just gone down and down. But also, we need to take into consideration that it was so bloody hot last week, and the weather's just got hotter and hotter for Cotter. So I rhymed and didn't even mean to. How good's that?
Modern day poet, and you didn't even know it.
That's me.
Do you know why Cotter's not named? Obviously,
no
we got onto this really, really quickly. I've got a basketball semi-final in an hour, so just banging it out straight away without doing much research. But yeah, maybe there has been a niggling injury for Cotter, and they're resting him, and he is one of their most integral, important players. They're just making sure that he's right. Could that, it's hard. It's hard to know what to do with him, but yes,
he hasn't been dropped. He can't be dropped.
He can't have been dropped. No, so there must be something going on,
and that would explain a lot around why he played 46 minutes last week. That would explain a lot.
Yep.
And I understand the people moving on from him even more now than I did before. So that's fine. Christian Welch, number 6, 2%. I'd be holding him. I think that's a mistake. Eric Grant in the chat has just said knee issue for Ruben Cotter. So
okay,
that's always good to know. I've missed that. So we'll keep an eye out for a proper explanation on that. I'm sure NRL Physio is going to be all over that one. Yeah. Christian Welch, I'd be holding him. I mean, he played 33 minutes last week, but we've got to remember that everyone was affected by the heat, especially the forwards in that Storm game. I think his minutes go straight back up to the 55 that we expect from him this week.
That's could be the worst you've ever seen the Storm play since they've come into the comp too. I think, you're going to, on the back of Cameron Munster coming back, even if Cameron Munster's at 60%, the forwards will go forward and Christian Welch will bounce back from that. So,
yeah, for sure. So that's top 6 bought and sold. Not too many surprises there. A couple that I wouldn't go with, but they all make a lot of sense in different ways. So, mate, before we move on to the games and looking at teams and tearing them apart, as we mentioned at the start of the show, we're lucky enough to be sponsored by the Standard Squeeze. You know, Matty and I enjoy a drink at the best of times. So, you know, the Standard Squeeze is the ultimate product that you never knew that you actually needed. I think we spoke about this last week. It's one of those things that you didn't know you needed until you get it. But it also ensures you're drinking responsibly as well and conveniently. So it's got food grade plastic or food grade quality plastic. So there's no glass breaking. It's not super heavy when you're taking glass bottles away as well. If you're going away camping or fishing or whatever it be, it's quality plastic, pours the perfect 30 ml shot as well. So you're not guessing how many drinks you've had and free pouring and not sure when you can drive. So if you want to have a drink and drive, you know exactly how much you've poured. There's 3 different sizes as well. The mini fits in your back pocket. So ideal for the guys that want to have a quick drink or you're going somewhere and you don't want to carry a bag with you. And I don't know about you, Matty, but like I find myself just drinking beer out of convenience because it's like either bottled or it's in a can. But I just can't be bothered opening a bottle of spirits and having to pour one and put a mixer in and all that kind of stuff. So the Standard Squeeze just makes it so much easier and more convenient in that respect. So guys, go on, have a squeeze at thestandardsqueeze.com and use the code MOLTON15 at checkout to get yourself 15% off.
Yeah, just pop on the website and have a look at some of their products. They're affordable. They've been really good. They've got that cooler that you can make your drink out of the Standard Squeeze and mix it in there with some ice or have a hot coffee in, or just use it as a can or a stubby cooler. So.
Yeah, so that 4-in-1's awesome. So, and I'm actually really surprised at how cheap they are when I went on the website. So very affordable, and you're going to get your value out of it for sure. So,
and another 15% off from the boys at Molten. So
that's it. Absolutely, cash in.
But we've got some free ones to give out. A free combo pack to give out.
Yeah, we do
from our competition over on Facebook and Twitter. And the winner of our squeeze of the week was Nathan Webb. I'd say that he was a bit conservative with his pick of Harry Grant 100 plus. But none of the other more spicy takes got up, and he's going to get a combo pack sent out, courtesy of the Standard Squeeze and us boys at Molten.
Absolutely. So Nathan Webb, if you're watching, listening, wherever it is that you're consuming the Molten Fantasy Sports podcast, reach out to us on Facebook, mate. Send us a message and we'll get your address and we'll get that combo pack straight out to you in the next week, mate. So congrats. Mate, Hamo went close as well. Ryan Hammond, a good friend of the Molten boys, went very close he predicted the Titans to beat the Storm, but he also predicted David Fafita to outscore Harry Grant, which didn't come in. So he went pretty close.
And I had Katoni Stags for 3, and I was nearly going to put Mum's address and save having to buy her a birthday present next week. So would have been
mate, you can still go and fork out and use the code, mate. Go and fork out, get your mum a birthday present. Come on.
Yeah. I might just pick some flowers out of the garden. So
good shout. Mate, let's move into the games because there's a lot to talk about here. And the first one, Thursday night, 8 p.m, we've got the Eels versus the Panthers at CommBank. This is going to be a great game.
I still think it's going to be a great game with how the Eels have been going, don't you?
Yeah, I think it will be because there's going to be some points scored in this one. That's my only concern for Parramatta is that they've given up 30 and 34 in their last 2 games. So 64
but
points.
They've also scored a few, from a Supercoach standpoint.
Penrith are pretty solid in defense, though. I don't know. I see this probably being a little bit one-sided, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means. But from a Supercoach perspective, there's a few ins and outs. Ryan Madison comes in on the right edge to replace Matt Doorey, who's dropped back to the number 14 jersey on the bench after that knee injury. So there's a little bit of uncertainty there about whether he plays or not. Have you heard anything about Matt Doorey as an update?
No, I haven't. I actually didn't expect him to be named. And I'd be a bit worried if you're a bit thin at second row forward and you're looking at playing him this week. I don't think his minutes are going to change massively. Maybe they'll come down. Yeah, actually, To be honest, they're going to come down a fair bit. Matt Dory's probably a bit of a question mark. I don't even know if he plays. And honestly, as an owner, I'd probably, hope that he doesn't play too much.
Even then, he's got a -14 break even this week, so you're going to make some cash from him regardless as soon as he steps on the field. That can be a next week's problem, and then you've got Schuster coming into a cash rise, so you can just go Dory down to Schuster if you don't have any other issues or don't need to.
I wouldn't be surprised if he come out of the side. Is probably more what I was angling towards. So
I think you're right, unfortunately, but again, he's a hold. I think there's no point moving him. He's got a negative BE. Wait for him to come back into the team and make you some cash. He can sit as your 6th second rower until that time comes, unless you have other problems. So, Brendan Hands comes onto the bench. So he's a bench hooker. So does that mean now Josh Hodgson doesn't get 80 minutes after he ended up nearly running backwards with that line break last week? They probably thought he doesn't have much juice left in the legs and they need someone on to help him out.
Didn't he look steady? He'd make me look fast, I reckon. Look, I think this is a really good play from the Eels because that was, somewhere where I thought that they struggled. If you're a Josh Hodgson owner, you've got to be hitting panic stations, though. You probably had him because he was an 80-minute hooker. So,
and you've got a cash increase from him. You might get another one this week. So could be worse for Hodgson owners, but panic stations for sure. Jack Murchie drops out of this side.
That's due to his HIA, so not performance. And you wonder if Dory would have dropped out had Murchie been available. So.
Yeah, that's right. And we got Momasia, I think, from memory in the reserves. So there's a good chance he could come in for Dory as that edge back rower. Steve has mentioned the bench hooker means it might be good minutes for Hopgood this week, which is a really good point. But also we need to remember that Madison has come back into this team. So are they going to play Madison 80 minutes and is he going to rotate between edge and middle? So that could also happen as well.
Yeah, I can really see that happening. So,
mate, is Cleary due for a bounce back this game? Because honestly, I feel like he's due for 120 plus this week.
Mate, if it was as bad, if it was as bad vice captain choices as we were given last week, I would straight see Cleary. But yeah, there's some few really nice options. I would be putting at least a badge on Cleary this week because the Eels have been leaking a lot of points and Cleary's due. So,
yeah. Dylan Brown's another one that's an interesting one because he got priced out of the market, really, didn't he? Initially to start the season, there were so many other good options when you're looking at Burtons and Dewey's and those guys at about 150k cheaper than Dillbags, but he could be a really good upgrade for Dewey from round 6, and that's probably in my head. I'd love for that to play out. I'd love for Dewey to hold his cash or at least not drop too much and be able to upgrade Dewey to Dillbags in round 6 when they have the Tigers. Because also the Parramatta Eels play all 3 major bye rounds and Dylan Brown is a Kiwi, so he won't be playing Origin. I really like that move, and some people might be going a little bit early. I know you've been toying around with some trades, Matty, that involve Dillbags.
I have been. Maybe it's probably more that I don't like anything else at 5/8. I didn't know about Cameron Munster coming back, but still there's Origin looming, which you don't have that issue. I even toyed with Matt Burton. That's how dry and barren 5/8 is for me. But yeah, I hate the idea of Dewey having turf toe. Dillbag's got a break even of 40 now. He's come back a little bit in price, just a little bit back to earth. And I actually really like that move. If it is a bit of a luxury trade because you have to spend a little bit but you'll gain a lot. So, and the Eels have been scoring good points coming off 88 last week, even when the Eels haven't been performing. So,
good point. Really good point. Mate, on my watch list for this game, I've mentioned Madison and what happens there with the rotation because I genuinely think he'll play middle and edge. But I'm also watching Sonny Luke this week because I've heard a few people talking about the fact he's a good downgrade option for Tanner Boyd or if he's in your hooker position. I don't really like that too much. I think there's better options, and especially when we're just so unsure about the role that Sonny Luke and the minute split between him and Mitch Kenny. I feel like you need to see another week of Sonny Luke getting more than 50 minutes to consider him this week or even next week.
There's too many question marks for me in a hooker position that I don't like to muck around with too much. I just like to lock a couple blokes in and leave them sit there. disappointing that I don't have Harry Grant at the moment, but I've been able to bolster other positions by having that. Yeah, I don't really like the cheapy hooker unless Sonny Luke was rolling out from 250s, 60s. Last game with 29. Yeah, I didn't really see it coming. So
Yeah, neither. 29 in 47 minutes, I think he got. So, and in
yeah,
his
it's kinda
first game,
close.
he got 57 in 25 minutes in his first game. So we know the attacking upside's there, but I just want to see a little bit more of that.
And maybe is that punch in that from the bench. Maybe the coaching staff's going to see that and be like, look, Sonny Luke needs to be playing 33 minutes, not 47, which worries me from a Supercoach standpoint.
Yeah, it's a concern. So it's a watch. That's a watch for sure. Mate, moving into Friday, 6 p.m, we've got the Storm versus my Tigers at Amy Park. We've got a 25% win rate at Amy Park, which probably ends up being a better win rate than our last 3 seasons combined. So I'm actually feeling a little bit better about this one. But the funny thing is Munster's back, which kind of ruins any optimism I had.
Yeah, like looking at the Storm from the last couple of weeks, you're going to say there's no better time to play the Storm, but anytime Munster's involved, they've got to go in the favourites, don't they?
Yeah, they do. So Munster comes in, Wishart drops back to the 14 for the Storm, and Pezzett drops out, which is poor Pezzett, man. He had an absolute banger of a game, didn't he, last week? And then unfortunately he needs to drop out, but we understand why. But he's going to be a quality footballer, Pezzett, when he gets his opportunity. If he doesn't get snapped up by another club.
Being involved in that Storm system, I wonder if one of those struggling teams are going to roll the dice with someone like him and, try and pry him from the Storm. So,
yeah.
But enough about the Storm. There's been a lot of changes. Sheens has got the shotgun out and absolutely went through the boys in the sheds after this game. And probably rightly so, wouldn't you think?
I do agree with a lot of the moves that he's made. They needed to happen, and I think we'll look better this week. I can guarantee you. As soon as Wakeham came on the field last week, we looked like a better team. There was an attacking threat on the field. I think Dewey was struggling, whether it was the injury or whether it was the fact that they were just kind of overplaying him, knowing that he was going to force that hospital pass. I think I saw people calling him the medic on Twitter for all the hospital passes
I like that
he was throwing last week. So, the medic has moved back to fullback. Charlie Staines goes to the wing. Brendan Wakeham comes in at halfback to pair up with Luke Brooks in the 6, which is good because it'll free up his running game a little bit more. Isaiah Papali'i comes back in after his suspension as well. And then Dane Laurie in the 14 jersey is a little bit of a puzzling one. And I'm actually a little bit concerned about it because there's a good chance Laurie could easily come in at fullback if Dewey isn't good to go. At least it's Friday, 6 p.m, so we've got some time to make some changes there. It's early in the week if Dewey ends up being out. So that could happen. And also, Joe Offahengawi and David Nofaluma out of the side. So, which I'm also a big fan of because I've been calling for both of those two to be dropped for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah, hopefully this is just a wake-up call because they're both very talented footballers. But yeah, it's a bit puzzling. You're struggling. You're dropping some guys that you're paying a lot of money to play for you. But Brandon Wakeham in excites me. Dane Laurie named at 14 worries me about Dewey's fitness even further. Jeez, if you've got Katoa, and we're going to have a bit of a chat about that in the next. If you've got Katoa and Dewey, it could be panic stations for your team.
There's some big concerns there because both look like they're in doubt, which is not good.
So just wait. This is my 5/8 that's happened in the last couple of weeks. I had Kalen Ponga and Adam Dwayhe. Dwayhe's been very ordinary. And then Dwayhe was under the injury cloud, so I had to swap Ponga out because I was planning to keep him. I had to put Katoa in. I had to play Katoa with his 27. I've swerved. I've played Dwayhe instead of Preston, who got 69. Now I'm probably going to have to swap out Dwayhe because he's under an injury crowd too. I just hate 5/8.
Yeah, 5/8's a barren wasteland, isn't it? It's just not good this year at all. It's just drama after drama in the 5/8s. Can I just pick 4 halfbacks? Is that all right?
Yeah, go.
Because I feel like you got Hines and you got Cleary, who are the two easiest picks at halfback. But then, the problem is because you can only pick 5/8s. Who are the duals at the moment that have dual 5/8 halfback? Because I don't know how many good options there are. I mean,
Katoa,
is Brandon Wakeham going to be that guy that comes in and saves everybody's 5/8 position this year?
Honestly, I'm considering it. This is how barren it is. Some guy that's played 30 minutes of football, and I want him.
Yeah, we'll see what he does this week because we can watch for sure. We can definitely watch. And I think, Nathan Beach is right. Schuster might be our 5'8" saviour this year. But I like him in 2RF a little bit more than I like him at 5'8". So we'll play that out. And James has said, let us know which 5'8" you're picking so that they can avoid, which completely makes sense.
I'll talk about it in trade talks because I've got half an hour to talk about 5'8". So.
Mate, my watch list for this game, Brandon Wakeham, let's have a look and see how he fits into that number 7 jersey, because honestly, it could be his for the year. It looks like they need an organiser. They need an attacking threat in that jumper. Brooks isn't it. Brooks isn't an organiser. He's a runner of the ball. And Dewey has probably lost a little bit of, they've lost a little bit of faith in Dewey at 5'8" after the 2 poor games he's had this year to start
Dewey's
the season.
So
center or fullback, mate. I said it last Sunday night. If anybody missed it, go back and check out the Sunday roast because, Dewey is a center disguised as a 5'8" in this team. So, mate, Munster back, that's a watch for sure, but I think you've got to watch another week if you don't have him. I think jumping on him this week after a little bit of time out, obviously his fitness won't be hampered at all. It's not like he needs to work back into his match fitness. It wasn't a lower limb injury or anything like that. So he's probably still been training and keeping his fitness up, but it's you've got to see how uncomfortable that finger is.
This guy is the toughest man in the world. I'm not too worried about him, but I am worried about the looming origin and the Storm have been struggling. We were just talking about Dewey being a good footballer and him struggling behind his team being very ordinary. Well, the Storm haven't been fantastic either. So yeah, maybe just instead of getting those 80s out of Munster, you might be getting 50s or 60s, and that's not what I want out of an 800k guy.
No, and that's the price tag is the biggest deterrent, I think, for me, is because he's 840k or whatever it is. Like, I mean, we've got Nico Hines. You'd pay an extra 50k and get Nico Hines every day of the week, and people are still tossing up whether they do that or not. I'd argue find the cash for Nico before you look at Munster. So, mate, Christian Welch is my last watch. I just want to watch his minutes because he's in my team at the moment, and I assume he's in a fair few teams. If we see him go sub 45 minutes again this week, I'm a little bit worried about that.
Yeah, so I was worried about the way that my front row forwards were structured. I just saw Ruben Cotter as a must-have. I believe that that's all injury concerns, and we made the right call. Christian Welch, I didn't really want to spend 460k. I wanted another 200k cheapie to sit there with Stefano, but I just couldn't not have him. If he's not generating that cash, I can see him getting the axe next week.
Yeah, 65 break even this week as well. So, I mean, look, if he can get close to covering that, he's just a hold and you just ride the wave because he'll get you a few more 60s and 70s this year. It's just going to be one of those real plodder kind of roles, I think, for Christian Welch. He might get you to 570, 580 or something, and you try and move him onto a fallen gun. I think that's the play for him.
If he gets 50 points in 50 minutes this week, he's a stay. So,
yeah, definitely. Mate, Dolphins, Broncos, Battle of Suncorp. The Broncos have had it real tough this week. They've got to travel all the way to Suncorp for their away game. So that's going to be pretty tough for the Broncos. I don't know how they're going to go away from home.
Thanks. Your support means a lot, actually. Just feel for the Broncos supporters that have to pay for an extra ticket, even though they're members, and we're playing at our home ground. And we have to, and we probably. And I'm really worried that they're going to give Dwayne Bennett the microphone, and people are going to have to listen to whatever the hell that is.
Yeah, Dwayne Bennett gets a little bit more publicity than he should, which is he shouldn't have any. So, mate, team wise, Jared Wallace comes into the 14 jersey, and Donahoe is out, and then the Broncos are unchanged. Which why would you fix something if it isn't broken? Makes sense if there's no injuries. But
yeah, and it's sort of the same on both sides, really.
It is, but Kafusi's been named, so they're contesting his charge at the moment. Yes. I don't know how you could contest that. I don't know how he would get that downgraded. It looked bad. I think you'll see him sitting out and somebody's going to come in for him.
So he would have I think he would have just got a week, but he had those 3 priors. I don't really know where he was supposed to go. I see the ball being a meter out there. I don't see them winning the charge, but I understand why they would contest it. And especially for Dolphins fans, this is going to be a really big game. And he has been one of their best players, their front runners. I do understand the contest, but I'm not sure. He's going to get 4 weeks. tonight if the judiciary rules, that he's wrong. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough one.
Not overly relevant for Supercoach, though, really. Not many people that have him,
all.
I don't think. So they'll just miss Finn Diesel for a week, unfortunately. Isaiah Katoa is the big talking point, though, like we mentioned, because he's under an injury cloud, and Milford has been training at 5'8" this week at training. So I don't know. If we're in big trouble if Katoa doesn't get named and then Adam D also doesn't get named. It could be the biggest shit show of a Friday night for Supercoach you've ever seen.
Honestly, this is enough for me to, in the last hour, I've had a bit of time to process. And yeah, Adam D's not making it into this weekend for me. I don't think that you can go into this week with Adam D and Katoa. There's just too many question marks. And I'm not willing to lose that extra 27 points that either of them are going to get me. So
I might just have to cop an AE because I really like my trades this week. So
you know what?
Yeah.
Your AE might actually score more than both these guys. So
it could, mate. Watch William Warbrick get a 75 for me, and it'll be my lowest score on the bench, and I'll be cheering. And then Adam D can disappear out of my team next week. Mate, my watch list in this game is pretty simple. Payne Haas. Let's just watch him dominate through the middle again, as he always does. Carrigan and Haas are going to get that 55 to 65 minutes through the middle. They've been quality. Tommy Gilbert is a guy I'm watching and is a guy I'm very closely considering bringing in with the news that Ruben Cotter's been out of the team this week. So that's a really good option at 60K. You get 60K out of that trade. Gilbert's got a 14 break even, so there's a good chance he'll make some cash. He's averaging 67 this year. Almost all in base. So I think this is a guy we're not talking enough about because Tommy Gilbert is a serious option at front row this year in a barren front row.
I did give you that tip before the Cotter injury. But my only concern with having both these guys in your watch list is if you've got Cotter, you're probably not watching this, or you're probably watching it for the wrong reasons. You've probably added one of these blokes because that's where you're going to move from front row forward. Even if you're hitting panic stations on Welch, it's got to be one of these guys, I think. I don't think, maybe if you hadn't got on Davy, the injury of Shaq being a bit injured might make you think that. But yeah, I think Haas and Gilbert is the only way to go with Cotter. And they're probably both playing Origin as well. So it is a sideways trade that we had hoped that we weren't going to have to make. But you really have to make this trade this week. I'm not having 600K sitting there.
Yeah,
not playing.
Yeah. I'd argue Tohu sits in that category. I'm a big Tohu fan. I've made that very clear. I think Tohu, Haas, or Gilbert are your three front row options for Cotter this week. So pick one of them. You can't really go wrong with it, all three, to be honest. Mate, Reece Walsh, big talking point. Most traded in player this week for good reason. Minus 30 odd break even. Very nice run coming up. Soft draw. That's a bit of a no-brainer. We've already talked about him, but Hamiso is another one that I'm watching pretty closely because he's due for a bad score. I think he's been bailed out 2 weeks in a row by falling on a try and getting that little boost at the end of the game. So I genuinely think that he's due for a sub 30 score, and it honestly could be this week.
Mate, I'm not trading him in this week. So yeah, he's going to score 70 plus.
Fair call. Mate, other sponsor, as we can see up the top right, if you're watching us on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch, is Snap Fitness. Matty, I might throw over to you to have a little bit of a chat about the Snap guys.
Yeah, look, if you're looking to make good on that New Year's resolution, head on and see Mark, Emma, and the team at Snap Fitness, Bendigo and Epsom. Both locations have childminding, which is great if you're, in the stage of your life, like both Braino and I are in, that, you can bring the kids along. They're looked after by qualified professionals that have their blue cards and everything like that. You can get your workout in. You can get on those one-on-one PT sessions, reformer Pilates, Tabata, strength classes. Just pop in and get on the treadmill and they'll look after your kids. I would honestly consider just going to the gym and sitting in the corner and reading a book while they looked after my kids. Big chance of that happening. Head on in, say good day to the guys at either gym and tell them the Molten Boys sent you.
Yeah, I honestly, as soon as you said that, I thought, you know what, that's exactly what I would do if I had child mining at my gym. I'd just go in, wouldn't train, and I might just pop around in the corner and sit down and have some time off.
Yeah, do some colouring in or something. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Mate, Saturday, 5:30, Cowboys, Titans. They've skipped the 3 p.m. game and we've got 3 games on Sunday. So load up on Sunday. Make sure that you get all of your stuff done Sunday morning so you can grab a tinny and sit back and enjoy 3 games of footy.
Yeah, that might not be a bit of a bad segue to say that I'm going to miss the next couple of weeks going on holidays over in South Africa. So yeah, I know a couple of the people that I'm going with. We're going to try and watch as much as we can. But yeah, Braino will be flying solo for a couple of weeks, and
Yeah, good fun.
yeah, I'll be back after that.
Mate, watch our views and comments just plummet for 2 weeks while you're away. The comedy relief is gone. And I'm going to have to ride solo. I'll just try and bring a little bit of value.
I can send you some pictures of me drinking if you want.
I might just put a picture of you drinking on the right-hand side there, just as a still frame, just to make it feel like I'm talking to someone.
That's your wallpaper on your iPhone anyway, isn't it?
So. Yeah, that's true. I'm just going to have to put it into a different format, that's all. Mate, Cowboys-Titans at QCB. Mate, how bad are the Cowboys been? And they're only getting worse with Cotter out. I think they're going to struggle because Griffin Neem is coming in at prop. Cotter out. That's the only change out of both teams. Titans remain unchanged in this one. Let's talk about Cotter, right? Because it's the leg injury by the sounds of things. It was in the comments, but we need to find out a little bit more about that one. But it's pretty easy for people that missed us talking about Cotter earlier that you can move him on to 3 front row forward options.
He was somebody that you were really looking to put on to put on ice, even after he got this injury news. This has just solidified it, hasn't it?
It has. It's an easier decision for me. I was actually sitting on Cotter, keeping him in my team this week because I didn't want to burn a boost. And it just made it easy for me to go, yep, cool, boost on. Time to go. See you later. Yep. Mate, a couple of things I'm noticing here. With Hylam Lukey back, it's his second game back now. He only played, I think, 20 minutes last week, but this guy's a starting edge back rower. I genuinely think Hylam Lukey and Cohen Hess are going to swap at some point in the next fortnight. Whether that's this week or next week, I don't know. But as soon as Hylam Lukey starts, I'm watching him very, very closely because I'm a big Hylam Lukey fan. The guy's a seriously good footballer. There were words out of Queensland camp and stuff like that Hylam Lukey was going to be a much better player than Jeremiah Nanai. And we've seen how Nanai turned out. So very close watch for me. And let's keep an eye on team lists.
Yeah, and 450K, if he's coming off the bench a little bit, we can probably get him at a little bit of a discount too. I know that there's a few of those mid-tier guys that are looking at getting the axe soon. Your Egan Butchers, your maybe just a downgrade option to find some money from somebody that's been disappointing you in there. Your Trent Loyeros. You've probably got bigger issues than Murata Niokores, Trent Loyeros, and Egan Butchers. But if they're in your team and this guy comes at a bit of a discount, I can see the swap coming.
Hopefully he drops a bit of cash and just plays shit minutes for a few weeks and you can pick him up dirt cheap. That would be ideal. The big question for me, can the Cowboys actually find some form? Because they have been really ordinary. And I think the Dearden-Townsend combo has just been woeful the first couple of weeks. And they're going to come good. They're quality players. They're Origin standard players. Tommy Dearden played Origin last year and he was quality. I just feel like maybe they're struggling with a little bit of, what they did so well last year. They're coming into this season and everybody's got these high expectations that they're just not meeting. And everybody's been talking about how good their draw is and all this stuff. But we've got to remember, bloody North Queensland's hot as all balls, man. So it's been a challenge for them, I think, a big adjustment for them.
Look, if I was a football team and I wanted to find some form, I would be pretty happy with playing the Titans this week. So it could be this week. I'm not putting the armband on Val Holmes or any of those blokes, but I'm pretty happy having Reece Robson sitting there. There's a lot of work getting done. It's disappointing Cotter being out, but yeah, look, this is your chance against the Titans this week.
Yep, absolutely. They can probably get them back into a bit of form this week against the Titans if they play the cards right. Watch list for me, Val Holmes. I want to see a little bit more from him. I want him to get more ball this week, so I'll be watching Val Holmes very closely. Won't be captaining him this week though, luckily, so I won't have to sweat through the whole game. Dearden-Townsend, are they going to kind of pull their boots up or pull their socks up a little bit Dave Fafita, Tanner Boyd, are also my two from the Titans that I'll be looking at. I'm planning on trading Boyd out this week, so I won't be overly worried, but I think he's an interesting one because I mean he scored 47 on the weekend. We know his points bring goal kicks, the majority of them, but we saw from the back end of last year that he was playing some good footy, getting 60, 70 Supercoach points a game. Like, we know he's got it in him. He's just been pretty underwhelming to start. And we all thought that Fafita-Boyd combo on the right was going to be a thing. And then obviously Fafita moved over to the left. So, yeah, a little bit disappointing in that. But
yeah, but with those goal kicking, I think if you've got other fires to put out in your team, that you can probably just wait on Boyd. My only trade out option for Boyd, especially with Sammy Walker scoring poorly last week and having a bye this week, is Nico, and it's a long way up. So if I had to wait for Boyd for a week, I definitely wouldn't be too panicky, because he's going to get those points out of his goal kicks. The Titans' issues in the past haven't been their attack. There's still plenty of goal kicks, and Tanner slots most of them. Look, I don't think he's going to burn a lot of cash because I think even if he goes poorly, he's still going to get 30, and I think his break even's 40. So,
yeah, good shout. Yeah, bigger problems, bigger fish to fry than Tanner Boyd this week. I think it's a luxury. Mate, before we move to Saturday, guys, if you're on, we've got a few people on, and the comments are flowing through. G'day, guys. Thanks for hopping on. Keep if you have any questions or about the week or whatever it be, or you just want to have a brag about how you went last week, drop a comment. Let us know how you went. Let us know your questions, and we'll hit them up at the end of the show. Saturday, 7:30, Rabbitohs Sea Eagles. Another cracker game at Accor Stadium. A bit going on here. The Rabbitohs have 3 injuries, unfortunately. They've got Harm Saleh, Shaq Mitchell, and Tavita Totola are all out this week, which, again, weakens them through the middle severely, doesn't it? Big concerns with Saluka Fafita coming into prop. Jacob Host then comes in on the edge. So... mate, what do you think? Do you reckon Davey Moali has actually benefited from these injuries, Shaq specifically?
Yeah, I think that they can. Shaq, even Totola and everyone there. I'm pretty high on Davey this week. I don't think he's a good enough option that I would play him in my 17 this week, but I'm pretty excited to get a bit of cash generation. I think he can bang out a 40 or a 45, and we can be sitting pretty there.
That would be great if you could. I'll take a 30, honestly. Just cover your money, cover your break even, and wait for that breakout game, which he's going to have eventually, isn't he? He's one of those guys that at that price just needs one game to get 3 price rises. So,
yep,
I think he's been saved by that injury. Otherwise, he could have been out of the team. Keon Koloamatangi is an interesting one, isn't he? What are your thoughts on him? Because honestly, he could be the form second rower in the comp right now.
He is what we expected Cam Murray to be, isn't he?
Yeah, what's what we wanted from Cam Murray, and it's what we paid to get from Cam Murray. But look, Keon Koloamatangi was also about 700k from last year because he had a cracker year last year. So pretty attacking reliant, but he just continued to do it.
It's hard to cover your break even every week at 700k, and he's been doing it. He's been doing it with tries too. I think an anytime try scorer for Keon. Most weeks is a pretty safe bet at the moment, actually.
You want to know what I love even more about that is that he's running at Schuster, and he's running at who's the second rower? Tuolangi. So that edge will leak like a faucet, I think, this week. I think that's a great
anybody that's had a Tigers contract, you'd want to be running it. So,
mate, half the competition.
I
like Keon.
He's had a pretty tough draw as well, and he's been covering that. Maybe he could be an 800k, second rower towards the end of the year. What do you think?
Yeah, a really good pod option for now. Right now, you could pick him up at 100k discount, really, couldn't you? So I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. Big talking points. Ruben Garrick is in a lot of trades and a lot of questions this week. Garrick is the luxury trade I think we're looking at. If you go Teddy to Garrick and you don't need the cash from Reece Walsh, I'd probably be looking at that this week, or even looking at upgrading somebody, maybe a premium center wing that you want to upgrade. I'd be looking at Garrick this week as well, because I think Manly are only going to go from going to get bigger and better over the next few weeks, especially with Schuster controlling that left side with Turbo. He could honestly find himself top try scorer. And I said this last week in the chat, top try scorer for the year, top point scorer for the year, Ruben Garrick. I don't know what that's priced at right now, but I'll tell you, I'll have a look because that probably will be the favourite for the year.
Yeah, I'm a
Schuster,
fan
are you
of
going
that.
to...
And carry on.
Sorry, I cut you off. I was just going to say, are you going early on Schuster?
If I need the cash to get some of these really premium guys that I want, I would. But I don't want to go early on Schuster because of that injury concern, because you saw him go down with calf cramps, and I'm worried about that flaring up and him sitting there at 240K being a really hard spot to upgrade from at 240K. Like, there's not going to be too many guys that pop around that sort of cash that you're happy to move sideways to.
Yep. Fair shout. Sunday, mate. First of 3 games on a Sunday. Warriors versus the Bulldogs at Mount Smart. I reckon the Warriors knock off the Bulldogs this weekend. Just at being in New Zealand just gives them that, like, they play so much better football at Mount Smart than they do anywhere else. So, and for good reason, obviously. They don't have to travel across the ditch. Mate, Charles Nickel-Clockstad comes back in, Jackson Ford comes back in, and Josh Curran onto the extended bench. Freddie Lussick into hooker with Wade Egan obviously missing this week, as well as Mitch Barnett. So there's a bit of change going on at the Warriors this week. What do you make of that?
Yeah, look, I'm just keen to see how these minutes in the second row and lock work out, because this is something that I've had a question mark about from the start of the season. And I think if Curran makes his way onto the bench, obviously, he's probably just got to make it through a captain's run or something like that. You'd have Josh Curran in your 17 if you get the opportunity and he's healthy. Yeah, we might get that look this week. I suppose Mitch Barnett still throws some things around there, and Wade Egan. I still think the doggies will come up because they have looked all right apart from that 20 minutes against the Tigers. And yeah, the Warriors have a few moving pieces this week as well. But yeah, it is always an advantage to play at Mount Smart. This is their first game at Mount Smart, it should be noted too. I think they played at Wellington the other game. So
yeah, they did. Yeah. Jackson Ford's minutes are a massive watch. I want to keep an eye on that because he's another really good downgrade option. He's got that 11 or something in his rolling average, unfortunately. So we're not going to get the cash we probably thought we would have got from Jackson Ford. If you've had him from round 2 or whatever it was, and then he got that HIA and missed a game, very unfortunate, but he's not a guy you need to move. You can just leave him there because he will make you cash if he gets 60 plus minutes. So keep an eye on those. You reckon Niokore can find some attacking stats this week? Because it seems like he's probably reliant on at least getting a line break or a try assist or a try to be able to break that 60, mate.
I reckon, just to give us all headaches, every second week Niokore is a lock for a try. So
you reckon take him? What's he paying? I reckon he'd be paying over $4 for a try, $3.50 or something like that for a try.
Yeah, surely get on it. Sure thing of the week.
I'll put my reserve on him this week because you've said it, so I can blame you then if it doesn't come in.
He is a chance, he's somebody that I will be looking to hold, but he is a chance of maybe just play him outside of your 17 if you have that luxury as well. So,
yeah, fair shout. Reid Marnie is probably my other one. Does he play a bigger role if it gets a bit grindy through the middle? I know that obviously when there was just mass points going on and shifting left to right and lots of lateral football, Reid Marnie kind of took a back seat, didn't he? Because he didn't really need to do the grunt work and do the tough stuff through the middle. But then we saw him take over in the second half when he needed to get stuck in.
I think in every close game, Reid Marnie is going to be fantastic. I do think that it's very smart football to just, if things are going well, not insert yourself too much, just get involved. But yeah, I do think that this will be a close game, and I think Reid Marnie will be I'm backing him for 60 plus this week. So,
I like it because I've got Reid Marnie, so I'm happy with that. Mate, any other watches for you? I guess Charles Nickel-Clockstad's probably a watch considering how popular he was. First game back after.
Look at how he comes back in. Of course, we're going to be looking at Matty Burton. He does have that 90 break even due to having, I think he had a 29 and a 20 in his rolling average. And of course, everybody's looking at Carraz at the moment. Let's see how high he can get. He could be a 700K player in a week. So,
yeah, he could be for sure. Sunday, 4 p.m, mate. Knights versus the Raiders at McDonald Jones. Bit of a trek up the highway, up the M1 for the Raiders. Bit of changes as well.
I'm actually really glad I'm out of the country for this one. This is going to be a shocker.
It might be a
Yeah,
stinker.
look, if you have any mowing to be done around the yard, anything like that, do it Sunday 4 p.m. Because there is 3 games, but there's only 2 that you want to watch. So, But Greg Marzu's back. I was excited about Greg Marzu with Ponga on that side, and Ponga's gone, so even the excitement is tempered there. Brayley comes back from HIAs. A man who we thought was going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks. They might have rushed him back a little bit with some of the struggles that they had, and 3 guys on debut last week. Tyson Frizzell's named in the extended bench. I actually hate Ricky Roulette, in case you haven't noticed. And Zach Wolford is starting. Starling's at 14. Josh Papali'i comes in. It doesn't mean that Saulo's dropped, though, but it just means that you shouldn't be looking at him for that extended price rise. Danny Levi will be out for 10 weeks. And Young, Keeley, and Rivet have dropped out of the Knights side. Dom Young being dropped for Marzu over Heimel Hunt. What do you take of that, Braino?
Is this injury? This can't be injury related, can it? Did we miss something last week?
Did you watch the game? Because he dropped the ball about 6 times.
Yeah, he was awful. But I mean, and you know what? This is probably them saying, you know what, you're not going to be here next year, so you can piss off the reserve grade, mate, and enjoy your time in reserve grade before you head over.
You know what? If we're going to lose anyway, we're going to lose without you.
Yeah, fair call. I mean, they're not going to win many games, so.
No.
What do you make of Wolford starting and Starling off the bench? Because that pisses me off. Like, it was Starling season, and Ricky Roulette's
from a Supercoach. It pisses me off from a Supercoach standpoint, because I was looking at Starling. I actually really like Starling as a footballer. Obviously, they think he's got that impact, and he's going to come in and do some damage, which he does. But yeah, I just salivate at the thought of Starling playing more minutes than what he's playing. I would want him. Zach Wolford's a good footballer, but gee, it's ruined any Supercoach relevance we've had for Starling, hasn't it?
Yeah, no good, unfortunately. But anyway, that's okay. There's plenty of other options there when we need them. I'm interested to see the Papali'i and Tarpany kind of combination again come together for the first time this year for the Raiders, because they just steamroll through the middle, most teams. It's probably the best front row combination in the competition, or very close to it.
It is, and I think it's probably better for Tarpany having Papali'i in, and maybe we could see a bit of an uptick for Tarpany. I'm hoping that we start to see a bit of form, because I want this man over the Origin period. So,
fair shout. So, the only person we haven't talked about here is Lockie Miller. I reckon he's a close watch over the next few weeks. I want to see what he does again without Ponga, because reality tells me that it looks like from last week, he stepped up into more of a ball-playing role and felt like he had to take a little bit more responsibility from an attacking perspective. And I really like that. The guy is an incredible footballer. So if he can take a little bit more responsibility on attack, play a little bit more of that ball-playing role down the left edge, mate, he could be a really good option at the moment, Lockie Miller. I'm a big fan.
I really like it. I really like that Tyson Gamble is that enforcer. And I've always thought Tyson Gamble could be probably a decent lock or something like that, the way that he plays. But yeah, if Lockie Miller takes over a bit more of that that playmaking, he's coming off a couple tries, but if he can prove to us that he's got 50 base and a bit of attacking upside, he could be a real look. I hate his price, though. I think if he was 500k, I'd be all in, but I think he's 620 or something after a bit of a price rise with that rolling 90 in his average. Yeah,
you just take Carraz, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You have that upside with Carraz as well. Look, it's a pod play. It's a luxury trade from maybe a To'o if he disappoints this week or something like that. But Miller's probably going to go up in price again if he impresses us the way that he is. And how high can he go? I don't ever see this guy really touching 700. I'm worried that he's already topped out in price.
Yeah. I'm not going to jump, but he's definitely a close watch for sure.
If you're watching anyone on the Knights, it's probably something like that, because I'm not too excited about anything else.
Mate, that's the perfect time for us to move on into the last game, the Dragons versus the Sharks.
Speaking of teams,
Sunday 6:15
in the Dragons.
Yeah, well, I mean, no changes for the Dragons, and we probably don't even need to really talk about them too much. But I'll tell you what, the big talking point, Nico Hines, been named in the 7 this week with Trindle
Woo!
in the 17 jersey, with Connor Tracy dropping off the bench. Are you concerned now that Nico potentially has either a planned rest ahead of him, where they maybe get a few tries ahead and he sits from 60 minutes, or are you concerned maybe that he might be a late scratching with Trindle then coming in?
I am super concerned about that, and I am super concerned about the Sunday 6:15 time slot for that. If it was early in the week, I would probably start the week with Hines in my team and then make the decision. But Trindle, even though Trindle has an ankle injury, has been named in the 17, just really, really worries me. I think you want Nico back, especially against a team like the Dragons playing 80 minutes. Yeah, it really worries me. It worries me for, I suppose you get an extra price rise out of Trindle if you rolled early. I did not expect Trindle to be named in the 17 with Hines sitting there, and it is a concern.
Yeah, and also there was a rumor that he was injured, carrying an ankle injury, Trindle, after the last game as well.
Yep.
So
He was limping about.
He could easily just drop off the bench and then there's no issues. But yeah, I'm not quite sure how that plays out. And at 900K, it's one of the second most expensive players in the game. There's so much uncertainty, but I understand why people are jumping in.
Here's a question. 60 minutes of Nico Hines could very well be a ton as well.
It absolutely could be. And you look at his last 3 games against the Dragons, he scored 300s. So there's a massive reality that he goes and does that again in 60, 50 minutes. But again, he needs to, if he does that 2 weeks in a row, how far behind are you? Depending on who you're picking, right? How far behind are you really if you then, you're probably behind maybe 70 or 80 points, but then you've got the bye for Nico. So it's, there's so much to consider with this one. And maybe that just moves straight into our trade thoughts, because this is a Hines versus Grant conversation for me. I don't know about you, but I need to pick one.
Yeah, it's not Grant for me. My concern is you've got to work out Nico's average over 3 weeks, and he's not playing one of them. I don't know. But then if you're sitting there with 500K in the bank, which I know a lot of people had waiting for Nico to come back, you're not sitting there with 500K in the bank and not spending it and playing Tanner Boyd. No, yeah. You've got to buy for Sam Walker too. If it's that guy, you go early and have a bit of a, honestly, it depends. This could make or break your season, this decision.
Well, I mean, it broke I still finished 300th, but I could have finished top 100 if I didn't go early on Turbo at 926,000 when he came back from injury and then dropped 160K on me. Yeah, honestly, like, I'm burnt by that. And I feel like going early on a guy that's coming back from an injury. And keep in mind, let me just run you through my thoughts on this, right? Initially, I thought I wanted to get Hines. Now I know I want to get Grant. And the reason is Grant has a friendly matchup against the Tigers this week. I'm going to chuck the captaincy on him so everybody knows that's my captain's option for this week, Harry Grant. Nico's calf injury is a 5-week return to play. It's not a 2-week niggle. It's a 5-week return to play. That's a significant injury. So I think from NRL Physio's perspective, there must be tendon involvement there, which again is a big concern if there's tendon or ligament involvement, not just a muscle tear. We know that calves are niggling injuries that take a while to disappear, so that might hamper him a little bit. And he's the last game of the round. So with all those downsides, I can't go and make changes. If it was the first game of the round, I'd just kind of leave him there and see how that plays out and then make the swap at the last minute. But you can't do that with him this time around. Imagine paying up 902,000 and then he gets scratched late and doesn't play. You'd be ropeable if that happened.
At least the person that you're dropping is probably Teddy, and he's not playing anyway. Either way, you're sitting with 800 or 900,000 on the bench.
Yeah, that's too many risks and too many potential downsides for me to jump at Hines straight away. I think my emotion and my gut feeling is, just jump on him and just hope for the best and see what happens. His form against the Dragons is great, but in my head and logically, it just doesn't add up for me. And I'm a big kind of logical thinker when it comes to Supercoach. I try and look at the numbers and I try and weigh up the potential positives and negatives. So yeah, I'm not going to go with Nico this week. And this is probably the one big question. Are you?
No, I actually haven't made my decisions, and I did get thrown a couple of curveballs. When I was thinking that maybe Nico might not get named, I was sort of looking at Dylan Brown, Walsh, and Haas in for Cotter, Dwayhe, and Tedesco, which I like the look of my team a lot more than getting in someone like Nico and having Gilbert and Schuster or Schuster and Wakeham instead of Cotter, Dwayhe, and Boyd. I do really want to get off Boyd, but the only way I get rid of Boyd is for Nico at this stage. I suppose another option is you could look at Nico, Gilbert, and Walsh for Teddy, Cotter, and Boyd. I think the big question is with Walsh and Teddy is you've got 200K there that there could be a bit of a flip. If Teddy flunks out next game, he could lose 100K, and you've probably already made 150K on Walsh. I suppose I have in the notes that basically my decision is whether Boyd or Dwayhe is more urgent to move out of my team. But the question marks around Braden Trindle getting named in 17 is probably the bigger concern. And I think I might roll into this week playing Dylan Brown.
Yeah, I like Dylan Brown. I feel like maybe that's 2 weeks early for me with my plan. I want to grab him round 6 against the Tigers. But yeah, look, I can't argue against that. He's coming off an 80 and 100. So,
and he's only 5.5% owned, and 5/8 is probably a spot that we can tinker with a pod.
Yeah, well, considering it's been a wasteland, an absolute shit show so far to start the year.
Over the next 3 weeks, keeping in mind that Cotter's injured, Tedesco has a bye, and Nico has a bye, getting in Brown is going to score you more points. He has a 40 break even. He's 5.5% owned. Dwayhe might not even play. I think that's the way, and I don't have this written down anywhere. I think that's the way just our discussions about Supercoach have ended. I think I'm going to fade Nico this week. It's going to be a risky play because I think if you play Nico and he gets 120 or 130, you really have the leg up. But I'm going to be happy with 70 from Brown.
Yeah, I'd be stoked with 70 from Brown. I think that's probably more than what you're going to get from Adam D. So minimal risk. Deal bags is good. Base stats are good. I like it.
I have to to fund that. Just remember, there's 180K between Dwayhe and Brown. To fund that, I have to go Teddy to Walsh, which is it hits it out of the park this week. But I, yourself included, and so many of our listeners have gone into this season saying, let's not trade a keeper and let's keep Teddy. But buyers have sort of messed with that. There's an imminent another price decrease coming for Teddy. And the Roosters aren't the Roosters that we thought they were going to be.
Yeah, pretty well summed up, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think my final trades, I'll use a boost again to get this right, will be Teddy down to Walsh for the cash grab. Then I'll go Tanner Boyd up to Grant because I had that Nico money sitting there. So I'll go Boyd up to Grant. And then I will go Cotter to Tom Gilbert. So I think that's probably me at this point. I like it. The more I talk about it and think about it, I think I'm pretty set on that. Yeah.
And the listeners might be thinking, how come, everybody's so high on Grant and I'm not mentioning Grant? I have Reed Marnie and Reece Robson there. So you obviously have Tanner Boyd at the hooking role, and I have him at halfback, and that's why really Nico's the only way I can go with that. I haven't backed myself in a corner because I've got 600K blokes there that I think, can, between your guys and my guys, we will hopefully score the same because we've spent the same amount of money. But I've sort of backed myself into that corner. So I've got Tanner Boyd at halfback. I can only really see myself going to Nico from there. And let's ride out Reece Walsh, hey?
Yeah, let's hope he can grab us another 90 plus and get another couple of weeks of price rises.
So you've got the captain on Grant. Where's your VC sitting?
Doesn't matter because I only have one Roosters player now, and it's Sam Walker, and I'm not willing to move Nathan Cleary to captain Sam Walker not playing to get my loop. So I'm just going to forego the loop. And obviously they play Friday night, 6 p.m, the Storm. So I'm just going to go straight see Harry Grant this week, I think. I do like that matchup. And that's probably one of the reasons, or one of the many reasons I jumped on Grant this week as opposed to going with Nico, just because of that matchup with Harry Grant. I didn't want to watch Harry Grant destroy me again for another week.
So do you think... So my only concern, and I'm not trying to talk you into putting the C straight on Nathan Cleary, but I really like Cleary's matchup against the Eels that have been super leaky, and I want to vice captain him. I've got Braden Williami sitting there that looks like he's not going to get a run again for a while, and I've got bigger issues than to try and get this gentleman out. I'm going to vice captain Cleary and captain Turbo, but do you think Cleary against the leaky Eels is going to score less points than Harry Grant against the leaky Tigers?
I'm going to back Harry Grant to outscore Nathan Cleary this week.
The base, it is a safer option though, isn't it? Because the base is going to be there for Harry, and as we've seen, Nathan Cleary has a 50 in him. I wouldn't have said that before the season, but Nathan Cleary does have a 50 in him.
Yeah, he does. And I mean, look, 50, it's not that bad. But I think...
it ruined my week 60 from Teddy when you've got blokes like Turbo putting 100 out when you've got Harry Grant. Like, that's an 80-point turnaround.
Yeah, that's it. And look, to be honest
that's
with
the
you...
difference. That's the difference between 20K and 40K at the moment. So,
yeah, good point. I'm just like Grant. I'm pretty set on him. And obviously the Tigers have just been awful, so I'm probably backing him. And with Munster back, it might free up Grant a little bit more.
You know what I think your subconscious is doing? You're going to watch the Tigers. Harry Grant is going to rip them to shreds, and you might still be happy.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm doing. I'm just protecting myself, mate. We've been going for nearly 75 minutes here. We'll answer some questions before we wrap up. It's been a marathon. You got to get the ball as well, don't you? So
I got to get some buckets.
Mate, Raymond Crane has asked us any ideas for a 2RF under 230K. Slow burner, doesn't intend to play him, but just needs somebody under that price tag this week.
No.
Personally, the only one I can see here, if you want an absolute bottom dollar plotter, is Mason Teague. He scored 66 points in 2 weeks. Like, he'll probably make you a really slow 10K here, 15K there. And if that's what you're looking for and that feeds 2 other really premium trades, sure. I'd probably just recommend, though, maybe just holding fire there. I mean, how important is it that you get your other 2 trades done if you're boosting? There's no good options under 230K.
No, there's nothing. It's barren that low at the moment. If you said 240K, maybe you could be looking at, Schuster. You could be looking at Ray Stone. But yeah, 230K. That's a very specific number. I do wonder if that's the difference between maybe a Teddy and a Payne Haas. Teddy, Payne Haas, Nico Hines. Maybe you just go a 200K bloke that might not play. I'm not sure. But yeah, Mason is probably the answer. Yeah,
absolutely. Cameron Williams said he had Starling last year. Never again. As long as he's in Raiders green.
Ricky Roulette, my friend. Ricky Roulette.
Yeah, absolutely. Just making my way through the comments here. Guys, thanks for hopping on and dropping all these comments. We've got people talking between each other, helping each other with trades and stuff as well, which is great. It looks like we don't have too many, which is good. Here we go. Steve's asked us. Yeah. Teddy to Walsh, Dwayhe to Dylan Brown, and Walker to Reynolds. I actually like the Reynolds pick. I think I saw someone ask us about what our thoughts are on Reynolds earlier. And with that Broncos draw, I'm a big fan of that pick. Goal kicking on a good team that's scoring points. What do you reckon?
A great goal kicker. I'm obviously a Broncos boy, so very, very happy to talk about Reynolds as much as I can at the moment. I am aware that he doesn't have the best Supercoach game or the best game for Supercoach. I wonder if we get through some tough games a bit later on the season. He's a bit older. He's a bit injury prone. We've brought in Jock Madden. Probably not expecting him to get injured, but as a little bit of insurance for him to get injured. He's kind of like Benny Hunt from the Dragons, except the Broncos are playing good football at the moment. So,
yeah, Probably hasn't dropped one in overtime or extra time to lose a premiership, has he?
Stop it. I just Tigers.
Yeah, no, 2005, mate. Those are the glory days. It can only get worse from there, unfortunately. Mate, that just about wraps us up. Hour 20, we've banged on enough. We've talked about all the teams. We've gone through everything we can. Obviously, if you're watching this on delay and you have any other questions for us, drop them in. We'll get back to you as soon as we can with our answers. But gone through our trades. We'll do an update on our Twitter, as we always do, on our trades when we get to Thursday and when we've got them locked in. So keep an eye. Follow us on Braino_FS and SC_Matrix and keep up to date with everything we're doing on there.
It's probably important for you guys to pop on my Twitter because I will be away for those couple of weeks. I'll be back over the Easter period, and I'm overseas. I'm just not sure how much internet that I'm going to have. But when I'm back in the hotels, I will be trying to watch the footy, and I'll be certainly updating my trade thoughts through my Twitter. I think that's the easiest way just to reach out to us. So.
For sure, definitely. And if you haven't yet, guys, and you made it to the end and you're still watching, make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. It'll support the channel, but also it'll basically get all of these videos delivered to your front door. So subscribe, like, and follow us if you're listening to us on all the audio platforms as well.
Make sure you get onto that standard squeeze giveaway every week. Everybody's got some spicy takes, and I didn't see all these guys commenting on Twitter and YouTube. It's actually a really generous giveaway from our guys at Standard Squeeze. Get on it. Especially early. We probably don't have as many followers as we'd hoped. You're a real chance. Saying that Harry Grant was going to score 100, got him like $80 worth of prizes. So get on it.
And we'll drop the social post as well that'll let you know what the challenge will be or what the task will be for the week for the Squeeze of the Week award or combo. So keep an eye out on Twitter and on Facebook and all that.
The week, is it, Braino?
Not at all. I've had a few Squeeze of the Weeks in the past, so maybe I can win one. You never know. You never know. But guys, that brings us to the end of another episode of Tin List Tuesday, rebranded Tin List Tuesday. So guys, we'll be back again by the end of the week on Sunday. I'll be riding solo for a couple of weeks without Matty, but still tune in, talk a bit of shit with me, keep me company while Matty's away living the dream over in South Africa. But otherwise, guys, we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck this week. Catch you later.